everybody. Hello and welcome to another Effisus Connect to Value session. Today we're going to discuss the sealing of joints and metal roofs. This is a continued work I've already done on Monday, so we decided to split this team in two. Today is going to be the part two of it. I'll be followed today by my colleague Mar Durand. It's part of our technical department. Thank you, Mar, for joining us.
Good morning, Jean, everyone.
So for those that are here for the first time, just to let you know, we have a chat comment section or somewhere around your screen. So feel free to leave any question or inquiry you have during our presentation. So when it comes to the sealing of joints and metal roofs, we find a lot of problems. Metal roofs in general, it's been applied in many different types of construction. But what I would like to highlight today here is how important it is to seal this specific points. In this case, the joint itself will be focused as well on the perforations, as you see here. So in many cases, when you do need to overlap or do some sort of welding in these panels, you will find for sure fastening or screw perforations. And we need to take a good care, a good look of this specific type of situations because they need to be properly sealed. I think it's important to highlight as well here when it comes to standard market solution for this type of applications. What we usually see are the use of or mastic or sealants, and we do all know they work very well, but for a certain period of time. After a couple of months or a couple of years, we all know that whatever you apply there will start to dry. And that's not what we want here because eventually it will lead to a leak inside the building. So here are another common situation we face at site. In this case, we see the joint of a rigid cap. In this case, will only overlap. You don't have any type of fasteners or penetrations coming out here. But we do have a huge open hole, open gap here. And it is important, as I mentioned, to look at those details. What we see outside, they have a minimum overlap, and sometimes it is enough to seal that point. But what will happen eventually is this material cell will start to moving. You see a lot of expansion and contraction between this type of materials, and again will lead to a leak in the future. We see here a lot of loose fasteners, so we need to take care of this specific points. If Effisus have a specific solution for this type of situation here. In most cases, all this could be solved with, of course, a proper sealant, but it's just a matter of maintenance. So if you go there every couple of months and see if everything is performing, it's doing all right, and not eventually wait for a leak inside the building. That would be nice, correct, Mar? Because we see a lot of problems when it comes here that it just pretty much a lack of maintenance.
Yeah, these are really weak points in all the roofings or facades or even in other parts of a construction. With time at the beginning, when we normally do this, we can say, okay, if we screw this, if we put this overlap over there, it's going to be okay. But we normally sometimes don't think in the expansion or dilatation, the movements, even vibrations of the building. So in a short time, maybe a few months or maybe a year, if you go again to this location, you can see the application is completely different. So the screws, normally it is a really weak point. normally translucent. The overlaps are with huge or sometimes huge, sometimes small spaces, and so these parts are the 100% normally leak air or leak water.
Yeah, that is correct, Mark. So what we decided to bring today, we mentioned this product and many others webinars that we've been doing, but we'll be focused today on the joints and the sealing of this preparation. So it is Tubon yes. So Effisus Tubon yes is a sealing tape. In this case, is a double-sided sealing tape. I mean, to be more specific, more accurate. So it could be used in the sealing between the joints, but we will also use this a lot of on perforations. As you see here in this application, we'll talk about more this application later on this presentation itself. So it comes in rows. All you have to do is cut in patches or the dimension you want for the application. In this case, we see the sealing of bracket perforation. And I would like to, Mar, you speak a little bit more to Bondies, how important is this tape for us? We use it in many different
Yeah.
applications, and it's based on a active and a very innovative
Yeah,
sealant.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's really innovative because what we means don't use another sealant. It's very useful. It's really easy. It's really easy to transport. It's really easy to apply. It's composed of a very innovative, as we said, molecular structure. What does it mean? Inside the adhesive, because it's only adhesive, it's one layer. Inside the adhesive has encapsulated primer. This encapsulated primer is activated when we press with our hands or we press with a small roll when we apply it. So when all of these encapsulated primer molecules open and start working, melts completely with the substrate and allows us to can't how do you say remove. You can remove once it's applied the tape. So it adhered completely with the substrate, and over that, a part of this, it's completely 100% resistance to the water and the air. So when we apply this, normally in screws, normally to seal to different materials, it's 100% tight and efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is if you see here, we're talking about this technology and everything that Mara was saying. So here, I think it's a very clear and quiet example. In
Yeah,
this
it's
case, was
completely
using this
elastic.
termination bar. So once you fasten or you screw the perforation, and you try to remove it after, you see that the tape itself will sort of merge or encapsulate
Yeah.
the whole perforation. And this is very nice, as Mar said. This is allows the completely sealing of this penetration of this perforation. The tape is 100% tight. It offers different characteristics, as you see here. Is very durable. Is very robust, since you can go up to temperature to minus 56 Celsius. One
Yeah.
thing. Go ahead, Matt. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to say it's really flexible and elastic. The elongation it's more than 500%. So as you can see, it's even if you do it inside, or you do it wanted to remove it, it's completely encapsulate with the material.
Yeah, here is just an example, and it's sort of like exaggeration of the
Yeah,
problem itself. So, but it gives you a very nice and a quite idea of how the product actually works. Inside is that's the most important thing to look at. This is have have this product. It's not only compatible to metal,
Mm.
or we do have a lot of testing, and it's compatible to pretty much any type of material applied on the roofs of facade. We're talking about this more later on. In this case, you see here is the sealing of a perforation of facade. In this case, you have the bracket. What we actually do is apply a patch on the bracket itself. Then you place it whatever you want it, and then you screw. And again, if you see here, it was sort of a merge. It's a very strong bond between the two surfaces, not only the bracket itself, but even the wall. In this case, you have a membrane applied on it. I think it's quite interesting and very intuitive to see this application of this tape. When it comes more of roofing application, we're able to use this, and we use this a lot on this type of metal flashing or termination bars. In this case, or sorry for that. So most of the case, you have a termination bar. You need to adhere a membrane at the wall. And this point, we all know it's a very weak point. What we recommend is apply a whole strip of the tube on the S tape behind the termination bar, and then you screw on top of that. Um, Different to the other situation where we recommend to apply just single patches. In this case, when we have multiple perforation, you just go over and apply a whole tape on it. So it's available in different widths. We're able to supply the exactly width for the application you need,
Mm.
and then you just simply remove the foil, apply it, and then you screw on top of that. So here is another application. We saw this at the first slide when we talk about this type of perforations on metal roofs. So Mark, what we did here, what we recommend for the specific case.
Yes, in this case, we had a very damaged screws all over the roofing. So they were completely loosened. So we need something to tighten them and allows in these two panels reduce the movement completely. So what we studied the situation, and we thought the perfect solutions were to put two sides to cap. How do you say, two layers?
Two
Yeah,
layers of
two
the tape.
layers, two layers.
Instead of applying just one, you apply
Yeah.
one and then remove and then apply another on top of that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so two layers of two bondiers, because this allows it a better flexibility, a better movement, and to apply pressure of all over this, we use a metal plate, and it's a small one, with the side we can see here, it's looks like a big, but it's really small, to apply pressure in the stone. So with this, we guarantee the completely tightness.
Yeah, we only did recommend to use the metal plate is to I mean, having this second surface where you're
Yeah.
able, once you fasten at that point, you were able uh, to merge or use this to surface. So we use this a lot. Another type of
Mm.
application on the overlaps, when you have this type of panels on roof, you need to place on one panel on top of the other. So we do also recommend to use the Tubondias tape. You just apply on the bottom panel, and then you just place the other one on top of it.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, sometimes normally uh, people would do it screw all over the, as we said in the first slide, we screw all over the panels, but as the screws with time get loose, this is a very good solution. When you start it, it's not for reparation, maybe it's when you start a construction or something like that.
Yeah. Another thing, Mark, we could also down here, just occurs to me right now, it would be apply actually a second tape here on this bottom
Yeah.
part. So we'll
Yes.
create a second barrier in this case. So it will be completely sealed here in this point as being another weak point, and then the top of it will be actually sealed. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it all comes to the application, the situation you actually have on site, just to understand the purpose of
yeah.
having that part.
Yeah, in this case, for example, in this picture, the part on the top, it's yeah, the finishing is not in the in the flat space, so that's why we don't need in outside the tape. It's inside because the water is going to be full, so it's not going to be inside. This is the solution. But in other in other examples, we are going to see in the following in the slides. Yeah, like here, we use it outside because it's as you can see the overlap is completely open in the exterior.
Yeah. So that's exactly what Mara said. It all comes to the application itself. So in this case, what we decided to do was applied a Tubon-DS tape with 5 centimeters, or I mean 50 millimeters wide on the joint itself, and that will actually work because for all the properties of the membrane the tape has, but then it will be totally exposure. So we do not recommend to Bondias to be exposure because it do not have this UV or properties that we actually need for exposure on the roof. So in this case, we apply that tape, and on top of that, another membrane that it is pretty much a Bondias, but instead of being just a double-sided layer, the top layer is composed by a TPO membrane, which will give us the characteristics that we need for being exposure, in this case, UV resistance.
Yeah,
So here is the example of the application. It's exactly, this is all part of our technical submission. I think it's important to also mention, Mark, this is the type of service that we
yeah,
do. So the client approach us with this type of situation. In the case they submit us just the photos. Here is the photos of the application. But we actually do at the previous stage. So I say, oh, hey, I have this thing here going on. So what can I actually do to seal this point? And this is Mark can explain very well. This is what we do as part of the consultative technical department.
yes, yeah. Normally at the beginning we receive or sketch or sometimes photos or not a really specific description of the situation. As we can see the following photographs, we first receive these photographs obviously without anything. So we study the situations, what dimensions are needed, what is the expansion or compression or compression of the edification. So then we decide when it's completely exposure to the weather. Normally we use an easy repair tape in over the easy repair. We have to say the easy repair it's the same material and the same properties of the Tubon-DS, but we have to add the layer of the TPO over in the
Yeah.
last layer. So we can say we have to resist the UVs. This kind of situation, it's really normal, and it's really easy to apply. The roles, either the easy repair and the Tubon-DS, are normal the same side. So uh, it's the same using of the application. So it's really easy.
Mark, I think that the answer a bit of the question we have here from Louis is saying it is necessary to use any specific tool to apply the
Yeah,
solution.
no.
So no, Louis. In this case, I would recommend for either these tapes is just to clean the substrate, and it must be dry, and then you just apply the tape. You don't need any special material or a special tool. As I mentioned, we have a couple certifications and tests done in specific to Bondias tape. When it comes to adhesion, depending on the material, it can go up to 81 newtons per 50 millimeters. In this case here, we saw as a joint between Tubon-DS and aluminum. I would also like to highlight this. We did a testing based on the 1928 standard. and we achieve a W1 classification, which is the best we can get, which it means it's 100% watertight. So which is awesome for this type of application. When it comes to ligation, again, depending on the material, it can go up to 50 millimeters. When we have this sort of a joint, in this case was a shear test. Well, another product that we decided to bring today is this multi-purpose sealing tape. We call it Effisus 2-Bond Go. It's more for a day-to-day application or rehabilitation works. It has excellent properties. In this case, it's compatible with many different materials, and as you see, glass, metal, plastic, aluminum coating, all types of this type of boards. In comparison to the others, we use this often in this type of application, which is when we have, for in this case, a window frame that must be sealed, but it could be in a roof, for instance, a skylight. We have or EPDM membrane, a co-facade membrane. We applied a tape, which will go over to the profile, in this case, the aluminum profile. And it could be multiple bands. Again, will depend on the situation, but it's a very multi-purpose tape, sealing tape as well. Here, I know the topic is metal roofs, but all the products and everything we're going through today, it could be applied to different situations. So here we're showing exactly the mold growth and this type of application inside of the window and this interfaces. We see a crack of a joint, but that could actually happen inside on top of the roof, depending on the situation. So Effisus have a sealing tape specific for the joints. We call it Effisus Seal Expand, so it's expansion sealing tape. It offers different characteristics for this type of applications. Which one, Mar, you like to highlight here when it comes to Seal Expand?
Yes, absolutely. We are talking about a self-adhesive product. It's normally, not normally, when we supply this product, it's pre-compressed completely, so it's a really thin tape, but at we can say it's self-adhesive, so you can't apply it in the joint, and then with its excellent expansibility, it has a permanent movement. So the permanently elasticity allows us to absorb the movements of the building and the vibrations again of the frames. Normally it's used in doors and windows, in sometimes in joints of concrete as well, and facades or the applications. So it allows us to during the whole life cycle of the building, follow those movements, right? It's UV resistant completely, and of course this is really important because in frames and of windows and doors, the weakest point, it's always we have that air and that water leaking inside, so it's 100% watertight and airtight. And even we have different types of seal expanse tapes. So some of them we're going to see following, some of them are even thermal and acoustic insulation. So it's really versatile, and we can say we can apply it in a lot of applications.
Yeah, thank you, Mar. So as I mentioned, you can apply this in many different situations. We saw here is this joint. As Mar was saying, we're able to provide this in a different variety of, or a wide range of width and sizes that will fit exactly the inside gap of that joint. So this tape, one side is a self-adhesive. You apply
Mhm.
that on the joint itself, and then we'll allow this type of movement. It will expand depending of the range that you actually need, and then we'll supply it. For instance, let's say something like a 10 to a 15 millimeters or 20 to 30 have this range, and then whatever it moves in that range that we can fulfill, this will fit perfectly. And on roof, I could highlight as situation from skylight, for instance. Again, this is a second part of this topic. We mentioned other solutions on Monday, and today is just for you be aware of the possibilities and whatever we're able to supply here.
Yeah, and we can say as well, it's really important that we don't need any sealant on any coating, uh, besides of the of the product. So it's simple. It's simple.
Yeah. So Mark, we have here another variant of the
Yeah.
fan. We call it a block VAP. What is the purpose and what is the difference between just a standard Silex pen?
Yes, this is one of the types I talked before. In this case, the block VAP, it's as we can say, it's blocking the air. So it has three layers. In the interior, we have a vapor barrier, so it doesn't allow the air go inside. Then it's the thermal and acoustic insulation. So this allows increasing the energy efficiency and improve the quality of the building, of the inside of the building. And in the last part, in the outdoor, obviously it has to be high resistance to the rain, to water. So it's 100% watertight. So it has three purposes: the air, the water, and the sound.
Yeah, and here we have some other characteristic I would like to bring. So when it comes to rainwater, it's extremely resistant. It can resist up to 1,000 pascals.
Mm.
So in this case, it can fit different purpose. As Mar mentioned, because of the different layers, it could also help from the acoustic and installation part of the site. When it comes to requirements, I would like to mention this here. It meets all the requirements in the UK building regulations. Specific, not from specific for the market. Any other, we have many certification for this product, but I like to mention this today. So here is a demographic picture. So we all know, we've been talking this over and over, how important it is, the sealing of the joints. In this case, you have a demographic of a facade. So as you see here, this is a before the sealing or sealing of this type of joints. Whatever you see here over red or yellow, this is energy efficiency lost. And here is a same picture, but after a sealing of the joints with Effisus Seal Expand. So yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We have a question here from Louis. Is self-adhesive or need some product to adhere? No, no, Louis, we don't need any other product to adhere. As we mentioned, it is a self-adhesive sealing tape. So all you need is the tape itself for this application, and not for only this, for all the other products I mentioned by far. You don't need any other tool or any additional tools for that. Um, we have done a couple of testing and research, and I think it's important to mention here. So when we use Effisus Seal Expand, I mean the whole purpose of sealing the joints we've been discussing to prevent leakings, to seal that specific points. But we have this we have this data here that when whatever you're using this, you gain a lot. In this case, per year you're saving up to 200 liters of fuel, heating fuel for inside of the building. So I think it's important to mention all these cases. Same thing will happen, of course, whatever you apply on the roof. So it all comes to proper sealing of the joints and the perforations and whatever we discussed it. Um, so I don't know if you have any other questions. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mar. Here is my contact. Whatever you need, or if you have any additional questions, you can just give me a call or contact me by email. If it's something more specific, I'll be glad to forward that to Mar, which is part of a technical department. We'll be glad to answer those. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Bye bye.